was really hard to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Marks and Marquettes, welcome to the Throwing the Book Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Shaun, and today we will be rebooking Nikki Cross's debut on the main roster. But before we do that, there are a couple of things we need to talk about. Firstly, the Sparrow's at it again up there. That may come in the episode. I mean, interestingly, it was tweeting. I was going to say doing its thing, but tweeting is what birds do. Right up until the moment where I started that first ukulele chord, I feel. So maybe I've got it to shut up. Maybe it's scared of Nikki Cross coming. I mean, I would be. Because, I mean, obviously that was meant to be Nikki Cross's theme. These are getting harder and harder, as is the likelihood of an ambulance or police car going past at the same time. But these themes are getting harder and harder to do on the uke. Like, I just want to make an appeal out to CFO $, or whatever your name is. Can you make something a bit easier to put on a uke? Just a request. You don't have to make every single entrance song a ukulele song. In fact, don't make any of them, because, I mean, that would be probably crap. Even the Shining Stars, if they had that back when they were a thing, that would be crap. But just for my benefit, yours, Shaun, off or throwing the book, CFO money. Actually, also one other thing, that's a crap name for a band. I know about good band names, all right. I have a whole segment on my other podcast, Through in the Bush, based around good band names. CFO Money is not on that list. But anyway, a couple of things about Raw and SmackDown. Start off with Raw. Oh, the Viking experience, that's no longer a thing. We only experienced it for 1 week. It was so incredibly crap while it lasted. But thank the Lord's got a new name. They're now known as the Viking Raiders. Which makes you wonder, or makes me wonder at the very least, why didn't they come up with that name originally? It's not an amazing name, don't get me wrong, it isn't Stone Cold Steve Austin levels of good name by any sense of stretch. In fact, it is closer to Cassius Ohno on that scale. But given that Raiders clearly wasn't a blacklisted, there's two very different things, word within WWE and the Toymaker and policy and what have you, why did they not just do that straight away so then there isn't this massive backlash and it's still somewhat connected to the name of War Raiders in NXT? Although they have still got that the finishing move now. It's called the Viking Experience, which makes the commentators look, and indeed graphics people, look like idiots last week. It's like, oh, sorry, we were just saying the finishing move name instead of the thing. It's easy to get it wrong because earlier in the Raw they were saying, oh, and look, here comes down to the ring Lombard check, and his opponent European uppercut. Yeah, that's not good. Well, that being said, if we're going to list all the times that WWE commentators are made to look like idiots, we could be here for a very long time. I mean, just the other day I rewatched a clip of CM Punk winning the WWE title at Money in the Bank 2011 and noticed that when he kicks Alberto Del Rio after the match, Cole, God, it's infecting into me. Cole just says, Punk catches him with a right hand. Michael, I mean, I don't expect much from you, but you probably should know where your hands are, because they're not on the bottom of your legs. Just saying. A couple of other things. Bobby Robert, whatever his name is, Rude. What a fetching moustache that is. I mean, well, firstly, why did he not have that moustache earlier? It's brilliant. Secondly, as a man who struggles slightly to grow facial hair, I tried Movember this year. Well, I say Movember, but basically just letting every bit of facial hair grow, and I got to a point where it was it wasn't peach fuzz or bum fluff as we call it in the UK, but it looked like it was starting to become a beard, sort of quite small. It wasn't massively visible, but you could see it. It wasn't like a full beard. I got to that point on day 5 of November last year, and then it just didn't grow anymore after that. So as a man who struggles in that department, being able to grow a moustache of that splendour in just a week, I like it. I rate it. I respect you, Robert. I'm going to need to get used to that. Also, now not only with a surname, but also with initials, moustache, and I couldn't think of a third thing. Spray tan. But Robert is getting more and more like Rick Rude by the day. And also, I do quite like the idea that the whole reason why Bob is annoyed at Chad Gable is because he just wouldn't let him grow a moustache. I don't know if Chad Gable can grow facial hair. If there's pictures of Chad Gable with facial hair, then please do send it to me at throwingbookpod on Twitter or throwingbookpodcast@gmail.com. Don't know why you want to email me a picture of Gable with a tash, but I'm not going to judge. I just want any emails at this stage. Talking again briefly about my other show, During the Bush, we've done 40 episodes now, and we have not had one bit of correspondence. Not one. So that shows you just how well that show's going. But before I get caught up with my own failings, should crack on. But quickly with SmackDown. Oh, Kevin, you've done it again. You can't go 6 months without stabbing one of your friends in the back. But in all seriousness, I really like the idea of this feud. I think that Kevin Owens, he was a babyface, but he never really turned babyface. He was just kind of the same guy. And so he's a very consistent character on that front. And I think that this feud could be very, very nice indeed. And that's a weird way of putting it. And SmackDown was low on top level heels. And having Kevin Owens up there is great for all involved, I say. As long as he doesn't get bullied by Lars Sullivan, then we're fine. And what else? Andrade went back to SmackDown, which is fine. I mean, you got to keep couples together, which is the first bit of good that WWE have ever done with these things. And also, apparently, Fox want Latino star, but that's not really for me to comment on. But along with those couples, Aleister Black came in, and I really liked that promo because it was really, really vague. It doesn't tell you whether he's going to be a babyface or a heel at all. It has kind of heel implications, but it does not mean that at all because, as we all know, no man is ever truly good, no man is ever truly evil. I've done the things you never could, and we will never be equal. Did I make that joke? Well, not make that joke, but say that in the Rollins-Ambrose episode? I think I did. So that's a callback. That's a comedy brownie point for me. Brownie points? I was never into brownies or scouts or anything. But anyway, I think we should probably move on to the meat of the episode, and that is Nikki Cross. So, here comes transition. Also, I've got it in tune this week, which I couldn't do last week. Changing strings on a ukulele, it's a pain. But, so, Nikki Cross, the Twisted Sister, a nickname that I can't figure out whether I like or not. I mean, it makes sense, but it equally sounds like a porn category. So, I mean, that didn't work with the submission sorority. That was sorority. Sorority. I mixed sorority and society there. But, but ignoring that, is it fair to say that Nikki Cross is just, not cool, but just, in terms of understanding a character and knowing where to take it, it's just golden what Nikki Cross can do. So you'd have thought that on the main roster, she would have had a whale of a time, I suppose. But no, as we talk, Nikki Cross, despite the fact that we just had a superstar shake-up, I can actually say it this time, she is still without a brand. So what exactly does that mean? Is she going to do an Alexander Wolf and go back to NXT UK? Is she going to do a Eric Young and just randomly turn up on Raw in the back of a graphic? Is she going to do a Killian Dane and we're no longer clear if that's currently in this analogy? That's currently what she is doing, and also who she's doing. But no, sorry, that was immature. That was immature, and I apologise. But Nikki has basically had a couple of matches here and there, and not much else really. No real storyline, no real direction. And that's a real shame, because Nikki is compelling, no matter what she does, at any time. And that is the sort of thing that the main roster loves to have. Somebody who you can, in many ways, it's kind of similar to Kevin Owens, in a weird way, where they can equally do comedy and a serious athletic match. And I think that given that the women's roster has always been a little bit thin, the fact that you have someone like Nikki Cross and just not really using her is just... It's just so crap. I couldn't even think of a word, so I just went for that. So, what should we do? Well, my first thought for this would just to be put her with Sanity and have them go wild. And in all likelihood, that outcome would have probably been better than the one I'm about to book. But, as we all know, Sanity was not given a chance whatsoever. They were turned into Shane McMahon's weirdly anarchist Mean Street posse when he was in the feud with The Miz, and they've just broken up. So, you can't, as weird as it sounds, I can't really rebook that to where it was, because by the time that Nikki came up, Sanity was nowhere. And this was probably always going to be the thing, but they basically only turned up on the SmackDown before WrestleMania because they suddenly remembered, oh god, we've got all these people that we don't use. Shelton Benjamin, you go as well. Which, by the way, I suppose that Nikki's best moment on the roster was when she was just on. She got a I can't even remember what it was now, but she ended up basically on Shelton Benjamin's back, and he couldn't get her off. I can't remember for the life of me why that happened. Why was that a thing? Was that a mixed tag? Was it it might have been a SmackDown, I think, or Raw or a SmackDown. It had a really big mixed tag. I think that's where that happened. But I just can't remember when it was, but I just remember that happening. And there was this idea that somebody had where Shelton was going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal words. And somebody had the idea that Nikki is still on his back. It's just still can't get her off, which would have been amazing. But, right. But I got distracted because the point is, if you can't do Sanity, what should you do with Nikki? Because Nikki, you're so fine. You're so... No, I can't. No. You know what? I abandoned that joke halfway through. But it probably is going to be the title of the episode now, because I'm always looking for puns. And there was one that just fell into my lap. So, on with the actual booking. So, as with all of the on their way to WWE rebookings, I will tend to start at the 8th of January Raw / 9th of January SmackDown. And we will hear, but it doesn't. The booking doesn't really start here, if you know what I mean. We're going to get to that because, essentially, up until the point where the booking will start, Nikki's just going to have squash. There. Did I say squash correctly? I don't think I did. I think I said squads. But squash matches against jobbers, local enhancement talent, what have you, basically to show what she can do. The fact that she is a bit, she's a little bit mental, but in that nice little kind of not adorable. I'm caught between two words in my head, and a lot of phlegm in my throat about me. I'm caught between adorable and relatable. Neither of them are the word, but they're the only two words that my head keeps going back to. Hopefully you know what I mean. You probably don't know, so I apologise for that. But she's just having jobber matches, essentially. Well, matches with jobbers. She's not being a jobber, just to be clear. And she will be doing that up until Elimination Chamber. Why Elimination Chamber? Well, that's when the second part of this story comes in. She's on Raw, by the way. I think I clarified that. But the second part of this story is the Riot Squad. Because as you know, I'm sure you know at home, if you're listening, the Riot Squad had a feud with Ronda Rousey and got absolutely, I want to say caked, but they did not come out well, let's say. Basically, all of them were just beaten up all the time, and it looked like they had no hope. So, we're not going to change. Well, as much as it would have been to have a slightly more competitive feud between Ronda and Ruby Riott, we're not going to change that. But what we are going to change is that at some point, maybe after the match happens at Elimination Chamber, maybe the Raw after. You see the Riot Squad backstage, and instead of doing what they normally do, like pushing over food tables and doing a whole litany of things that probably wouldn't be described as being a riot, unless it's in terms of being fun, which I imagine they are quite fun. It's quite a riot in that sort of mark. But they're backstage, and Ruby is trying to sort problems out. Also, I hope that whoever's been stabbed, I hope that they will appreciate that their ambulance is quite a lot being in this recording. But anyway, I feel like I should leave that in, weirdly. But anyway, she's basically saying, trying to figure out what to do next, because, it's a low, essentially, for the Riot Squad. And she's talking to Sarah and Liv, and they're trying to work things out. They haven't fallen out, but they're just trying to think, well, where do we go from here? She isn't necessarily getting blame on. It's not like Adam Cole and Roderick Strong with Undisputed Era, but it's basically it's almost like a therapy session where they're coming together and think, right, okay, everybody, what do we need to do to improve this? And then, wandering into shot, comes Nikki Cross. And she's been listening. She just goes up to Ruby and says, "Ruby, I'll play with you." Oh, God, that was really bad. That accent was really bad. I mean, I shouldn't do that, should I? I am far too southern to get away with doing a Scottish accent like that. But, yeah. So, essentially, what we're going to have is Nikki is going to kind of wedge her way in, if that's the right term, phrase, into the Riot Squad. So, for example, there's a situation where, let's say, Ruby is having a match with Mickie James, say. Doesn't really matter who. And it looks like she's on the ropes. It looks like that perhaps you can either have Sarah and Liv banned from ringside, or they've just been taken out by Mickie. And it looks like he's on the ropes, and then Nikki Cross comes out, costs Mickie. I realise this is quite weirdly sibilant. Nikki costs Mickie the match. Easy for me to say. And Ruby kind of looks at it, again, it's kind of a bit surprised, but then kind of smiles and thinks, right, okay, you could be useful here. Then the next change we're going to have is, instead of Nia Jax and Tamina, we have the Riot Squad challenge Bayley and Sasha Banks for the Women's Tag Team titles instead. that match goes. Well, I was going to say goes how it does, but I mean, that's not going. I mean, the Sasha Bailey, Nia, and Tamina match is not going to go the same as a Boss and Hug versus Riot Squad match. I mean, it could be nowhere near as sloppy for a start. But in that match, it looks like the Riot Squad are in control. And what's interesting is because the team will be Logan and Morgan. Ruby and Nikki are both on the outside. But interestingly, they're both getting instructions. They're very different sorts of instructions. For example, Ruby's being tactical and saying, right, take Bailey to the corner, work her over so she can't get to the partner. Nikki is essentially just going, fight, 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 fight. But they both seem to, whenever they do it, they both seem to kind of work. And it looks like they've got on top of it. But then, towards the end of the match, Bailey's down. And they've just hit a big move. And I don't actually know the Riot Squad's tag team moves. That's a damning indictment of the Riot Squad right there. Probably of me also. But, you know. But then Nikki shouts something into the... And it basically it confuses Liv Morgan. Just like, what's she doing? What? Maybe she's up on the apron and she's trying to say, look, this guy punch her more or something like that. And it's actually confused her in such a way that when she gets back, Bailey manages to either roll her up or hit a Bailey to Bailey. Your choice. It doesn't necessarily matter. I'd say probably the Bailey to Bailey. Bailey to Bailey to Bailey. Bailey to Bailey. Bailey to Bailey to Bailey. Bailey to... It's a... words. It's the Bailey to Belly. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Boss and Hug retain the titles. If you want, you can have the big angle afterwards of Nia and Tamina coming down, wrecking them. I think that would make a bit more sense rather than just having them lose and then doing that, because then it just feels like, I can remember at the time it just felt a bit limp almost. But during this, the Riot Squad have managed to basically just get out of dodge, and now, from what it looks like they're working together quite well as a team, Ruby is now slightly apprehensive and is kind of looking at Nikki and thinking, are you trying to take the leadership of this group away from me? So in the next couple of weeks, Nikki is basically, she's being told to do whatever Ruby says. Because at first they're kind of, the thing with the Riot Squad, despite Ruby as the leader, they all kind of act kind of in an equal footing. So having Nikki there and then having her be put down kind of shows character-wise that Ruby is worried about her, basically. And you could have maybe some skits, I suppose, of Ruby telling Nikki to do something, and then she just either gets distracted or does it completely wrong, which I realise is worryingly close to the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when Baby Groot's trying to get something for Rocket and Yondu. But I mean, that was a funny scene, so you could do that. And then they're obviously building up to being in the women's battle royal at WrestleMania, and this is where the storyline is going to come to a head, because during this time, Ruby has been telling Nikki what to do, and Liv has been very much with her and saying, yes, you if you want to work, you're not working with us, you're working for us, or something like that. Sarah Logan, on the other hand, is slightly apprehensive. She's kind of staying in the background, which again, given that she's got quite a bit of a presence, it would be quite noticeable. And she doesn't necessarily kind of boss Nikki around or put her down or anything like that. Nikki, whenever she's in a position, I don't know, maybe she seems to like Sarah more than the other two, basically. I realise that probably wasn't described brilliantly well, but she's taken more of a liking to to Sarah Logan. And so we get to the Women's Battle Royal, and the outcome of this match is going to change, because instead of just briefly dominating, the Riot Squad are going to dominate the entire match. And they are throwing people out left, right, and centre. You've got Ruby being tactical, Liv kind of following along. I mean, being a bit kind of like you, yeah. You know, sort of, that was, again, very badly described, but you know what Liv Morgan's like. She's almost like a couple of shades away from the Iconics in that sense. And then you got Sarah Logan being strong and powerful, and Nikki just being mad. But mad in an effective way. Words. So I would say at one point she goes under the bottom rope, and everyone's thinking, man, what's she doing? And she's just grabbed Carmella, who has gone under the bottom rope, takes her in, locks her out again. Nikki is you can kind of build up this idea that Nikki, despite the fact that she's clearly a bit crazy, she is good. She's very good at what she does. She doesn't want to give up. She can take a lot of punishment, and she can see things that not everyone else can. Have these ideas that basically you can have a kind of break wrestling logic in a way. Like, say, I mean, this wouldn't happen in the feud, but for example, you could have a situation where somebody comes out in the middle of someone's match. Everybody else, because of WWE logic, will just stare at the ramp and say, "Oh my God, there comes the person I'm feuding with. What do I do?" Nikki, on the other hand, just carries on, just punching her opponent. In fact, punches her harder, because now she can see that the person she's feuding is coming out, and she's just going to take it out on Alicia Fox. By the way, also, I realised at one point Nikki and Alicia teamed up when they're doing the qualifiers for the Elimination Chamber tag match. Yeah, that doesn't happen. Nikki is nowhere near that. I think they were the team that lost to Banks and Bailey. So you could either have Nikki team up with someone else, not Nikki, Alicia team up with someone else, or just because they're such this progressive and revolutionary tag team, you can have Banks and Bailey just automatically go into the chamber, and then that will put more of a grievance on the other heel teams who think, well, we had to qualify for us, and they just walked straight in, which I think would work. But anyway, back to the Women's Battle Royal, and it gets towards the end, and you've got all four members of the Riot Squad, and then you've got Sonya Deville and Asuka. Those are the final six, I suppose, would be the word. And Sonya tries her best with all of her MMA sort of jab kicks and what have you, but she gets eliminated by Nikki Cross. And now Asuka is in a situation where it's 4-on-1, and of course Asuka is going to try her best to try and get all of them out, and it looks like it's working. But again, she gets not stumped, but almost gets kind of toyed into a big kind of almost hockey fight with Nikki Cross. Of course, they have a history in NXT. In fact, my original idea for this, before this idea came into my head, because this idea came into my head before WrestleMania happened, the original idea was just to have Nikki face Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title. Just do the last woman standing match again from NXT, because that was really good. I mean, in an ideal world, we could have done that again, but we're basically going to stick it like this just to keep as much the same as possible, and also because Becky Two Belts is quite a cool nickname. Let's be honest. So Asuka is clobbering Nikki Cross. That probably reveals what's going to happen next. But then Sarah Logan comes up behind Asuka, eliminates her, but eliminates Nikki Cross in the process. But Nikki doesn't really mind. Nikki's basically still fighting Asuka for the time being. She doesn't really care. And then, as soon as that's happened, Ruby Riott goes behind Sarah Logan's back, tries to eliminate her. but she doesn't quite manage it. And now we get to see that sort of an actual breakup of the Riot Squad rather than just going separate ways in the draft. So Sarah holds on, and because Sarah Logan is quite intimidating, Ruby thinks, "Oh dear, I have gone fuck this up, haven't I?" They go back into the ring, have a big old brawl. Liv's also in there, but and acting as the trump card for Ruby, and they beating her up. But whenever Sarah Logan has the odd occasional comeback hope spot, if you will, you can see something. It's a little bit different with Sarah. She's a bit more vicious, I suppose. Not in a kind of heel vicious kind of way, but she's like properly clocking whoever it may be and kind of screaming at them rather than just to try and almost in an intimidating fashion. And this goes on until eventually Logan manages to eliminate Liv Morgan, but then again Ruby comes up behind Sarah Logan, and again looks like she's just about got her over the top rope. And then Sarah's on the apron, but she manages to lift Ruby up, and then basically at that point it's a clobbering match. And basically trying to knock each other off in every way. Imagine Rollins and Strowman at the Rumble. But then Ruby, raked to the eyes, looks like she's about to right off, and then suddenly you notice there's a pair of hands that's kind of caught onto Ruby's legs. It's Nikki Cross. Ruby can't quite shake her off because Nikki isn't going to eliminate Ruby, but she's just going to stop her. And then big kick from Sarah Logan. Ruby falls off. Sarah Logan wins the Women's Battle Royal as she should have done at the time. And now, all of a sudden, we've got a new team. We've got two new teams, in fact, because Nikki rolls into the ring and celebrates with Sarah, and Sarah realises, maybe realises is the wrong word, but basically we're having her be a bit more Crazy Mary Dobson, if you know what I mean. And these two become a team because that makes sense for their characters. I realise this is very similar to what I did with EC3, but if you don't have a plan for someone, and if you haven't given enough space on a card for somebody to have their own match, which is the case for both of these two, then you may as well use it as an opportunity to build on their characters and to build on the characters that you already have. And I think that works. And also, WWE is very short with tag teams for either gender, men and women. So having these two together makes a lot of sense. I like the idea that Logan is less crazy than Nikki, because Nikki's just insane. But you can still tell that she is quite, you know what I mean. I remember actually, I thought this idea before I actually had really seen Crazy Mary Dobson on the Indies. So I just thought, is this the right character to put with Nikki? So I put into YouTube Crazy Mary Dobson. I actually just you can't see, but I actually mind typing it in and pressing enter. Don't know why I did that, but I was just trying to look through, and then one of the first things I found was a promo where I think she said last time we fought, I threw nachos at you, Mickey, because that's what you're worth. You're worth imitation cheese. And there's a pause, and then she turns to the interviewer and says, "That's funny." Anyway, and then carries on with the promo. And I thought, yes, this is absolutely the right thing to do. And again, it's in that sort of Nikki Cross kind of way. You can kind of add it so that it is kind of comedic, but you've also got the fact that both of these two can seriously F you up in the ring, in that sort of in the way that only really Nikki can provide, and with this at Crazy Sarah Logan would as well. I don't think call her Crazy Sarah Logan, because that's just, that's almost too close to Crazy Mary Dobson. But yeah, and then from that point you can either have them as a tag team, because I love the idea. In fact, I probably would keep them as a tag team for now. I love the idea of them feuding with the Iconics. That could be the funniest, but yet also not most serious, but it's like the funniest feud without it being an out-and-out comedy feud, if you know what I mean. It'd be like if Edge and Christian feuded with William Regal and Tajiri, but they both acted like Tajiri. Both of them in the thing. It's a bit laboured, but that's what I went for. Or, if you don't want that, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't want that, you could have Sarah as a kind of almost manager, but not quite manager, but kind of basically mate of Nikki Cross as she goes on a singles run. I think that taking her and putting them in the Raw roster. Oh, also, I always forgot to say at this point, with this happening, Liv Morgan would go with Ruby Riott to SmackDown. Perhaps they could feud with Absolution to figure out once and for all who came up with this idea first. But on Raw, you could have Nikki go as a single person with Sarah Logan flanking her, if you want. I think the idea of Nikki versus Lacey Evans, given that Lacey Evans is probably going to be quite high up in the Raw Women's division simply because there isn't that many people, and you know she is challenging for the Raw Women's title at Money in the Bank. I think that would be quite fun. I don't know why they didn't do it in NXT. I mean, they may well have done. I might not have noticed, but I think with a full time that could be quite fun. And on that note of being quite fun, that brings us to the end of the podcast. So thank you very much for listening. If you liked it, then do subscribe and whatever you happen to be listening on, like on YouTube, and give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, whatever. If you want to get in contact with us, I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. You can find us on Twitter at ThrowingBookPod, or you can get us on the emails at throwingthebookpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to hear more of me, I almost forgot what that was. If you can check out my other show that I do with a good friend of mine, Timothy Broad. It's called Two in the Bush. It's about everything and nothing all at once. Imagine kind of chatty podcast combined in a weird way with like a game show. It kind of goes along that sort of lines. It's kind of the best of both in many ways. It's the best of both brands. And that is all I think I have to do. So I shall bid you all farewell.